My name is Wendy Wesley, and I'm a registered and licensed dietitian and nutritionist here in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I am in private practice here, and I work for Insight Wellness Works, and I do these kinds of cooking seminars for Pinellas County. And we've done several already in 21 and throughout the pandemic, and we have several more coming up. So I love doing these for Pinellas County. And for years, many, many years, I worked in an acute care hospital at St. Anthony's Hospital, and I taught diabetes and cardiac disease. And so nutrition and chronic disease management is absolutely my jam, my passion. And cooking at home is also something I'm very, very invested in and very interested in. I hope during the pandemic that all of us did more cooking at home. I hope that we found more pleasure with cooking at home. I hope we found time to carve out in our daily lives for cooking at home for many reasons, because many studies have shown that people who cook, the more you cook at home, the lower your BMI, lower your risk for cardiac disease, lower your risk for diabetes, for kidney failure as well. And overall, people who cook more at home have lower BMIs. And typically they have a bit more money in the bank account. I have worked with a lot of people who did a lot of Uber Eats and DoorDash, and they kind of are looking at what they spent during this time of lockdown for foods brought into the home, and they're reporting that they did spend quite a bit of money. Now, I know we weren't out spending a lot of money, so it may have been a wash. And as we kind of head back out, maybe start traveling again, going out to restaurants again, doing things, we may find that we need to get back to doing more home cooking as an economic measure. So shopping at the grocery store, shopping at our fantastic local farmers markets, there's new ones popping up all the time. And then cooking at home is definitely the best way, like I said, to have more money in the bank account, lower BMI, and better chronic disease management. So today, we're going to talk about measuring foods using your hands. And so reading labels and then using our hands to measure food. And then I am going to make one of my favorite things to make for dinner, which is a restaurant style bowl. Now, I've been introduced to restaurant style bowls downtown St. Pete, and they are not cheap. And that's when I decided several months ago that I would deconstruct a couple of really good restaurant style bowls I had downtown St. Pete and recreate them in my home kitchen and do it for a fraction of the cost. One of my favorite places to get a bowl downtown is called the Naked Farmer, and the food is very, very good. It's very fresh, but each bowl, which is actually smaller than this one, the bowl that they give it to you, is $16. And so I said, well, that's a lot of money for some pretty simply prepared plant food and a few proteins as well. But it sure does taste good. But if you did a lot of that, it would slowly edge away at your maybe your savings or your take-home pay. And I don't know about you, but I can't afford to go out to dinner and spend $16 on a bowl many times a week. That would really eat into my monthly budget. I also encourage you to not wait for the end. And if you want to take yourself off mute and throw a question at me, please do that, because it's so much better when it's interactive. And I love talking to people instead of just talking to the screen. And it would just make it better for everybody. Please don't be shy. Just take yourself off mute and say, hey, Wendy, I have a question. And then we'll just go from there. So does anybody have any questions before I get started making this bowl and talking about serving sizes or estimating serving sizes using your hand?
So I'll just pop in and say that if anybody is too shy to come off of mute and talk, throw your question in the chat. And I'll keep an eye on that as well.
Okay, that would be great. And then Kelly, if you would read that question out to me, because I would have to kind of, move in real close and open the chat. And that weird noise you hear behind me is my dog having a dream that he is chasing some squirrel or I don't know. I saw a funny cartoon the other day that said when your dog's having a dream, is dreaming of tearing you apart limb from limb. That's kind of
No,
gross,
that's what cats dream.
that's how cats dream. But yeah, he's back there having a barking dream. So if you hear something weird, that's what that is. And maybe in a minute he'll start barking. So what I just put some rice on, and it's finished cooking. It's over here. I'll show it to you in a second. It's just some jasmine rice that I bought at Trader Joe's. It's actually, this is the remnants of it. I do use these binder clips on all of my food. I find that they're kind of one of the best things to help keep my food fresh. And so this is just actually, it's not jasmine, it's basmati rice. This is just basmati rice that I bought at Trader Joe's. And so the base of your bowl is going to be a grain. It doesn't have to be a grain, but most of the bowls I've tried in restaurants are a grain. And so there's many different things. The classic base for a restaurant bowl is rice. It could be brown rice. It could be plain white rice, short grain rice, jasmine rice, basmati rice. In my cupboard, I have some purple rice that I cook every now and then, but I don't necessarily like to because it turns everything purple. Everything that it touches, it turns everything purple. So I've kind of fallen out of love with purple rice because it stains everything. So there's all kinds of different things that you can use. Even if you wanted to use this pasta, this is orzo. Orzo kind of looks like rice, but it technically are smaller kind of rice-shaped grains of pasta. You could use orzo as the base, especially if you're kind of trying to introduce your kids to the concept of bowls. You may be able to sell it a little better if you use rice instead of pasta, or you may be able to definitely sell pasta much easier than you could, say, my favorite all-time base for a bowl, which is farro. This is a product. This is called Bob's Red Mill Farro. I do think I picked it up either at Publix or Trader Joe's. Not that expensive. I want to say this whole bag was like $4 for this entire bag. It's very affordable. It is a whole grain, which means that it is full of B vitamins and iron. It has not been pearled. It is a whole grain, and it is very, very high in fiber. The fiber in this for a serving size is, where is the fiber? Oh, 5 grams. That is actually one of the highest fiber foods you can get per serving I've seen is 5. 6 is kind of a unicorn. 5 is pretty high. And people always ask me, okay, serving size for grains. Now that's quinoa, rice, and pasta, and oats and barley and all other kinds of grains. Is it the serving size cooked, or is it the serving size uncooked? And so this is, if you take one thing away today from this lesson, it is serving size uncooked. So the serving size for this farro is 1/4 cup. But don't look at that and think that it's 1/4 cup cooked, because when you cook it, obviously, it will swell with water. All grains will swell with water. Pasta, rice, oats, they all swell with water. So the serving size is always uncooked. So you measure it before it goes into the boiling water, and then you know that's your serving size. So if you wanted to make bowls for 4 people, you would do a cup of this farro uncooked, and it would yield 4 cups cooked. And so each bowl would get a cup of farro in the base. So you start with a 1/4 cup and you end up with a full cup cooked in as the base.
Wendy, what exactly is farro? Is it a grass? So what is it?
It is not a seed, interestingly. And I say that because I want everybody to know that quinoa is technically a seed. And quinoa is one of those grains that's very, very, very high in protein. It's ridiculously high in protein. I have some in there. I can pull it out and look at it and tell you the protein on it. But farro is just, it's a grain. It's not a seed. It's a grain, almost like wheat is a grain, or barley is a grain, or an oat is a grain.
It's not a type of wheat, is it? Is it gluten-free?
I believe that it does contain gluten, just like barley
and okay, all right,
and definitely wheat. I believe that farro does contain gluten. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And a lot of people talk to me about, should I go gluten-free? And I always say that if you can orchestrate your diet where you will eliminate foods that contain gluten, and if you find that you are feeling better, fewer GI symptoms, maybe you have more energy, maybe you have less GI distress, better bowel movements, then by all means, cut gluten if eliminating it makes you feel better. But too many people think that, hey, if I cut gluten, then I am automatically healthy. And then they continue with their diet as it was before. And that may be a diet that's very high in sugar sweetened beverages, in potato chips, in very, very kind of salty, gluten-free junk. So too many people say, I cut gluten and I'm good. And gluten is not inherently evil. Gluten is a protein that is found in grains, primarily wheat, and it's what makes bread chewy. It's what makes this farro when it's cooked chewy. It's what makes not oatmeal, but it's what makes other grains that contain it, like pasta, like chewy against the teeth. And if you've had some gluten-free food, you may notice there might not be much resistance against the teeth, and that's because the gluten has been removed. But gluten is not evil. It's a protein naturally found in wheat, but if you find that you eliminate it and it makes your life better, that's a good thing to do. I am somebody who I practice intuitive eating, which means when you're hungry, you eat. When you're full, you stop. You try not to mindlessly graze, try not to eat at emotions. And I'm also someone who says, listen to how food makes your body feel. If food makes your body feel lousy, work to identify that food that may be causing you distress or discomfort and remove it from your life. Conversely, if there's a food that makes you feel fantastic, fresh fruits and vegetables, beans, like I have some black beans here that I'm going to use in the bowl that stay with you for a long time because they're full of protein and fiber and they make you feel great, then eat them. But pay attention to the way food makes you feel. I see a couple of questions in the chat.
Oh, we're just talking. Yeah.
You're just talking.
Yeah. Jane was pointing out that there is a lot of gluten-free processed and junk food out in the market, which is absolutely correct, because guess what they have now? Gluten-free Oreos, if you can imagine. And then I was chiming in and saying that those of us who have certain conditions like IBS can see a lot of relief from eliminating gluten and especially dairy.
Yes.
So we were just having a conversation.
Cool. I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that you all echo that. And I wanted to make the case for beans, because I think beans are probably the finest food on the planet. They are certainly the cheapest protein in the grocery store. Full stop. Beans and legumes are the cheapest protein in the grocery store. Now, I have some clients who said, okay, I'm going to start beans. And I always warn them, are you currently having beans in your diet? And if the answer is no, I want you to kind of ease into the shallow end of beans. I've had some people who go from 0 to 60 miles an hour on beans, and they have a lot of GI distress, gas, bloating, pain. And they say, okay, beans aren't for me. And then they cut them out entirely. If you're kind of new to beans and you feel like it's something you want to incorporate into your life, because here's the number one reason: maybe you want to eat less animal proteins because of the impact on our environment, or you just feel that it's time that you eat less animal proteins for chronic disease management and your health, or you want to save money. And you want to turn to beans, which is a fantastic high protein, high fiber source of food. Don't go crazy with beans, because you may not have the gut flora to break them down. So I want you to ease into beans. I made that mistake in college. One time I went bean crazy and I suffered, and then I stopped eating beans for many, many years. Beans are something I incorporate into my life several times a week. And I do believe that I have developed the gut flora in order to break them down. So that's my word on beans. Don't give up on them, just ease into them. Anything about that?
We were just talking about easing into all high fiber foods slowly so that you don't shock your gut. Chew them well. And then I'm putting a little comment in here that soaking dry beans overnight before cooking them can help with the, I don't want to be indelicate, but any gastric issues, any digestive issues.
Yeah. One of the problems with beans is they're so inexpensive. Here, I have some black-eyed peas.
Oh, I love black-eyed peas.
Now, these are my black-eyed peas left over from New Year's Day. I will always, on New Year's Eve, soak black-eyed peas, and I will cook them on New Year's Day. It's just what I've done it for years. But I'm really not one to take the time to soak beans. I am a canned bean lover. I personally think that I'm a busy person, but I try and cook at home as much as I can. One of the shortcuts that I use in my kitchen is I use canned beans, because if I have to soak a bean and then cook a bean to eat it, I just don't know if I have the time in my life right now to be that much of a homemaker. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm committed to cooking, but there are also things that I use as my personal shortcuts so that I can continue to cook at home and not kill myself. So once a year, I will soak and cook beans, but the rest of the time, the other 364 days of the year, I am using canned beans. Is there any, I think there was a question or a comment.
No, we're still chatting. I was talking
Okay.
about using the Instant Pot for beans is a great idea if you use dry.
Yeah, I
So
haven't,
anyway,
it's okay. I don't have the Instapot yet. I haven't kind of ventured into that. I'm still using pots and pans, old school.
oh, it'll change your life. It'll change your
That's what
life.
everybody tells me. And I that many people cannot be wrong. That's what I say about that. That many people cannot be wrong.
So we didn't mean to derail you from the bowl discussion. So
it's okay. It's okay. I find that I'm kind of going off script a little bit. Let me get back to another shortcut that I use. I will buy these shredded carrots. I find that when they're cheap, and when they're in the fridge and they're already shredded, they end up in soups, they end up in salads, and they end up in bowls. And when they're not in the fridge, or I buy them, I do buy whole carrots for my cooking, like if I need them for something. But I also use these because in my life, if I buy them, I eat them. And to me, that's a green light for the extra expense of buying them pre-shredded, because people say to me, Wendy, what's the best vegetable? And my answer is, it's the one that gets into your stomach. The best vegetable is the one that makes it into your stomach. And whether that's organic, non-organic, canned, I said canned, or frozen, I don't care. It all depends on your budget, your cooking style, your storage style, your preference. This dietitian will not judge anyone for eating canned vegetables. If it's something you want to try and change down the road and switch to frozen, I love frozen vegetables because they're ready when you are. They're not in the fridge rotting, and they're often very, very fresh because they were frozen very, very shortly after they were picked. So whatever works for you, please do it. No judgment. Let's get going on the bowl, and also serving size. Let me just do some serving sizes. So this pasta, these are elbows, and I looked at the serving size. The serving size is half of a cup, so that is uncooked. Okay, and so usually grains will double, or sometimes they will like double and a half. So your serving size, when after this elbow macaroni has been cooked, is 1 cup. Okay, so cooked 1 cup, uncooked half a cup. Okay, so everybody make a fist. This is one of my favorite uses of using your hands to estimate serving sizes. From the wrist bone here, the volume, the entire volume of my fist is the equivalent of about 1 cup. Okay, I know my hand is kind of falling out, but I'm also got some space in here for my knuckles. It's an estimation. So when you're in the grocery store and you're on the cereal aisle and you're looking at serving sizes and you see a cereal you think you might want to try, look at that serving size, and it says serving size is 1 cup. I want you to make a fist and say, how likely am I to eat that much cereal? And that may influence your decision to buy the cereal. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. So once you realize that the pour method into the cereal bowl from the box may be driving diabetes, may be driving weight gain, you can get back to looking at the serving size is about your fist. If you have the ability to cut your fist in half, that's about 1/2 cup. Another cool trick I like to use is that for things like nuts and M&Ms and small kinds of pieces, what you can put into your hand without spilling over is typically a serving size. So this is about a serving size of nuts. It's also about a serving size of M&Ms and raisins. So kind of this is whatever fits in your hand without spilling over. Now I know what the next question is. Wendy, your hand is very small, and my hand, or my husband's hand, or my son's hand is very, very big. It's a relative measure. I need less energy than a man who is 6'3", who has a much bigger fist. So it's kind of a relative measure. The man who is 6'3" and weighs 200 pounds, he needs more calories per day to do his work, to kind of propel his body against gravity and to do his work than I do as a smaller framed woman. So it's a relative kind of a thing. Another one of my favorite ones is the serving size of cheese is about 1 ounce, which is about the volume of these 2 fingers. So that's not a lot of cheese. So what I recommend is, if you're using block cheese, if you cut off the amount that is your serving size, you will be less likely to overeat as if you're otherwise if you're just cutting directly off the block. So cut off your serving size and then put that block back in the fridge, and then enjoy your cheese. Also using these 2 fingers, if you can kind of look down the fingers kind of this way, this is the serving size of stick pasta uncooked. Okay, so if you want to take like linguine or spaghetti or angel hair or something, this kind of width is the serving size uncooked. So it kind of give you an idea of what it is. So if you're cooking pasta for 2 or 3 people, you want to measure this 2 or 3 times and then put it in the pan. Okay. And then the one that gets everybody is the serving size of things like peanut butter and mayonnaise and sour cream and salad dressings. It is, everybody, 2 thumbs up. It is the volume of your thumb, 2 of them. From this bottom knuckle, the volume of this thumb is 1 tablespoon. So I have a tablespoon right here. And remember, all measurements are level, okay? They are level, they're not heaping. So if you're measuring a tablespoon of peanut butter, you would dip this in and then level it off. And it would be approximately the volume of your thumb, and your serving size is 2 of them. That's not a lot of peanut butter. And most of the people I talk to, I ask them, is this the amount of peanut butter you're eating, or are you eating quite a bit more? And the answer is almost 100%. I'm eating quite a bit more peanut butter than just this amount. Like I said, same goes for mayonnaise. 2 tablespoons, or the volume of 2 thumbs, is the serving size of mayonnaise. I know, it adds up so fast. Salad dressing, 2 tablespoons. Okay. Same with sour cream. Definitely sour cream. These are the reason why these serving sizes are so small is because there's a lot of fat in mayonnaise and sour cream and peanut butter. And there's also very, very little water. So if you find a food that has very, very low moisture, it's a good bet that it is a very high calorie food. So where we find lots and lots of water, we find low calorie foods. Where we find a very, very little bit of water, we find higher calorie foods. Here's a dill dip that I picked up at the store, something new for me, and the serving size is 2 tablespoons. So that was my hunch, and I was right, 2 tablespoons. Same with hummus. Most people are eating a lot more than 2 tablespoons of hummus, or 2 thumbs of hummus. Any questions? I'm going to get going on my bowl. Before I start doing something like this where I am cutting some vegetables, I like to sharpen my knives. This is just a steel. I'll make just a couple of quick passes on the steel, and this kind of gets a nice edge on my knife, so I can work very, very safely and quickly. The safest thing in your kitchen is a sharp knife, and the most dangerous thing in your kitchen is a dull knife. When you have a dull knife, you are very likely to press down very, very hard, and that's where you can slip and really cut yourself. I have cut myself before with a dull knife. I have almost never cut myself with a sharp knife. Okay, got a nice little edge on my knife, and I'm going to, this is my bowl, bowl. I bought these because they have a nice wide base. This is why I bought them. So let's see, the lid off. Like I said, I just cooked this. This is basmati rice, and I'm going to give myself a cup in the bottom of the bowl. Now, if you want to try and reduce some calories, you can just do 3/4 of a cup. That's one way to save on some calories. And then what you might do is bulk up on your vegetables, which are essentially 0 calories. Now, one thing about fruits and vegetables, when I make something like this, I'm not going to bother to measure. I do not measure things that are very, very high fiber, like green vegetables and fruits and things like that. When I work with people, I pretty much say unlimited fruits, unlimited vegetables. The argument is they are so full of water and fiber, it is very, very difficult to overeat on them and almost impossible to overeat on them. And I always say no one is on the stroke or the cardiac floor at St. Anthony's Hospital because of too many apples. Nobody says, Doc, these apples are killing me. Get me off these things. Typically, I find that people are hospitalized or dealing with chronic disease because of very, very high processed, low fiber, high sodium, high sugar added food. These are the foods that are driving chronic disease in our country today, not zucchini and cilantro. So when I cut these and put these in the bowl, I'm not going to measure them. I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. But for things like rice and the beans, I will measure. Okay, so I have, and again, all measurements are level. So you're not doing yourself, you're not doing yourself any favor if you say, okay, that's a half cup. It's not a half cup. That's more like 3/4 of a cup. All measurements should be level. Now this rice is hot because I just got it off the stove. Ouch, ouch. So I'm going to make it level. Here is 1/2 cup of rice level into the bowl. And I'm already looking at, I think that's kind of like a nice serving. I might do the full cup. I might just do a half cup. So let's see. Yeah, this is a bit lighter. Okay. And into the bowl. So this is the base. I chose rice today because I might use some of this leftover for dinner tonight because my son loves this rice. So that's why I cooked it today. But truly my favorite base is the farro. Quinoa is another fantastic base for these bowls. Quinoa is so high in protein. Let me get the quinoa. It's right here. I want to tell you what the protein is per serving. This is just white quinoa. I think I picked this up at Walmart. The serving size is a 1/4 cup dry, so it'll double of maybe 1/2 cup, 3/4 cup cooked. And the protein in it is very high. It's 7 grams. So to put it into perspective, that's more than an egg. So in this, the serving size of this quinoa has more protein than an egg. So, you know, you can get fantastic protein from fruits and vegetables and grains. Incidentally, one of the things I love to share about potatoes, I love potatoes as a food. People are usually kind of demonize potatoes. One medium potato has 6 grams of protein. I think that is so cool. 6 grams of protein in a medium-sized potato. So eat your potatoes and eat the skins, please, please. Okay. I do have some, as my protein, I'm going to make a vegan bowl today. And vegan means
Wendy, can I interrupt you for a second?
Totally.
We have a question, how to keep quinoa from being too mushy.
Well, you can try and rinse it. By rinsing it, you can rinse off the starch. Now, I made the mistake today of not rinsing my rice, so I've got sticky rice. Now, if I'd rinsed it, I would have, I think, grains that were a bit looser, that weren't sticking together. But I forgot to rinse my rice. So I think if you rinse the quinoa, you'll rinse away some of that starch and it won't be so sticky.
And actually, there's a coating on quinoa that they recommend that you rinse it before cooking it anyway. And I don't remember what it is, but it's a coating that you certainly can do without when you eat. It's like a bitterness, adds a bitterness.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is, but I have a really fine strainer because obviously those little bitty things are going to go flying if you try to use a regular colander. I have a very fine strainer and I always rinse my quinoa. And honestly, Shirley, I've never had mushy quinoa, so maybe that act of rinsing. And then I would say just make sure you don't cook it too long. Yeah, and
definitely.
Jane says using a little less water than recommended and leaving the lid on the pot to let it absorb in. It'll be chewy, but it won't be soupy.
Okay. Thank you. I did not know about that coating.
Yeah, I wish I could remember what it was called. I'm going to Google it while you continue.
Okay. All right. Now I have I did a 1/3 cup of black beans. Now I'm going to use black beans as my protein in this bowl. because I'm doing a vegan bowl today. No reason why. I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan, but I'm trying to eat more plants and eat fewer animal proteins, just kind of my own wellness journey, if you will. What's great on here is salmon, a little bit of sauteed shrimp and a little oil or butter with a little salt and pepper. Any kind of seafood or some crab, some lump crab is fantastic in here. Some baked chicken. One of my favorite uses is if I have a leftover rotisserie chicken, I'll pull off some of that meat and I'll make a bowl, and I'll put some of that leftover rotisserie chicken meat into it. Any kind of protein. So we're going to start with the base, which is the grain. We're going to add the protein in this case. Oh, another good thing to add is some hard-boiled egg. A little bit of hard-boiled egg is a fantastic protein to add to these bowls. Okay. Some leftover sliced steak, leftover sliced roast. I've even used, I had leftover pork loin, and one time I made a bowls for dinner for me and my son with leftover pork loin. I just kind of let it come to room temperature and put it on, but you can also do it cold. It doesn't matter. It's just your preference. Okay. So I have the rice, I have the beans. I find that bowls are good for kind of cleaning out the refrigerator. So I went into my refrigerator and said, what do I have in here? And I have this beautiful zucchini. I'm going to put some zucchini as one of my vegetables. Take my very, very sharp knife and going to do some chunks. Okay. I'm probably going to take these discs and cut them in fourths and put them into my bowl. 1 and 2. Okay, sprinkle them into my bowl. 1. Can you see what I'm doing? I think this might be in the way. I have a very narrow workspace here.
Yep, no, we can see it.
Okay, and then here we go. So I've got some zucchini. I think I might do one more bit of zucchini. Again, I'm not going to measure my fruits and my vegetables for this bowl. The only things I'm going to measure my dressing, which is, this is my homemade vinaigrette that I'm going to put on it. I'm going to, of course, measure my beans. I'm going to measure my rice, but the rest of it's just a free for all. I love carrots. I love the crunch of carrots. These are already shredded. I'm going to put a handful of carrots on here. Okay. So you can kind of see what I have going. I don't know if you can see. I've got the rice on the bottom, the beans, zucchini, and carrots. Okay. I have a bell pepper. I already cut some of this. I made an omelet yesterday, so this is my leftover bell pepper. Can I tell you about the best thing that the best kitchen hack ever in a million years? And I think I've shared this with the people on this, with Pinellas County before, but it's worth sharing again. This is a plastic tub that I bought in the store that contained an organic 50-50 salad mix. I bought it for what was in it, but I truly bought it for the container. I like this container because it's clear. It has an easy to open lid. And I have been using this on and off for about 6 months. And here, what we have in the bottom is a wet kitchen towel. This is I would say a damp kitchen towel. And I keep all of my vegetables in this guy in the fridge. So I keep it at eye level right here in the fridge. When you open the fridge, it's the first thing I see. It's clear, and it's a reminder. I have bought onions and cilantro, and I have zucchini, and I have bell pepper, and they're all in here. And I better eat them or they're going to go bad. And this is how I try and goad myself to include more of these vegetables into my food. Into my cooked food. Now, I used to keep all of these things in the drawers tucked away, and then they would rot because they were out of sight, out of mind. The beautiful thing about this is that the water from this kitchen towel through diffusion, so water will automatically go from a place of high concentration to lower concentration. So the towel is very high concentration water. The onions and the cilantro are lower concentration water. So we have water constantly moving from the towel into the food, keeping these foods nice and what we call turgid and fresh. That's my favorite hack right there.
So Wendy, I noticed that you, when you hacked up your green pepper, you didn't fully de-seed it.
No, I didn't. I have found that leaving the seeds in and leaving the stem in, it stays fresh much longer.
Interesting.
And I also know that if I keep my bananas intact, I believe it's kind of the same thing going on, and I want to go research that. but when I keep my bananas intact at the stem, they last longer. So there's something to it. There is something to keeping these kinds of fruits and vegetables intact with seeds and stem that helps them stay fresh longer. I don't know what it is, but now you've inspired me to go look it up. Okay, I'm just going to do just a little bit of bell pepper. Maybe like I just cut off 2 wedges. I cut off 2 wedges of bell pepper. Set this aside. I don't have a lot of room here. And I'm just going to give them a quick slice. Again, this is easy work because I sharpen my knives. Just a quick half. So slivers and half, bite-sized. Now, I don't have feta cheese, but if I did have some feta cheese, I would most definitely put some feta cheese on here, sprinkle it on the top. I think feta cheese is one of my favorite things. But I'm just going to make a totally vegan bowl today. And then lastly, I am a major, oh wait, I've got green onions. I want green onions on it too. Let me just take one. Look how nice that is. This green, I bought these Monday. And they've been in here and this is very, very firm, turgid. It's because it's been in here with this dish towel. Okay, green onion, quick. Now this guy, I can pop him in the dirt and he will regrow. So I have flower pots all over my house and I just take these little butts of these onions and I just shove them in the ground and they just keep growing and growing and growing. So I have also started composting again. I was doing it several years ago and then I stopped and I've started again. And the amount of kitchen waste I throw away, it seems to be reduced by 75% because my scraps are going into my compost pile and not into my kitchen garbage. And I'm throwing away much, much less garbage, which environmentally I like. I like that I'm composting and I'm not throwing kitchen scraps into the landfill. Okay, chopping these green onions. I use the entire green onion. Again, very, very high fiber, minerals, vitamins, antioxidants found in all parts of the onion. Eat all parts of the onion, just like you eat all parts of the potato, the skin, everything. Let's see, I'm going to put those there. Very nice. And then lastly, cilantro. Now, for some people, cilantro is very, very soapy. Are there any cilantro soapy people on the call?
Not me. I like cilantro.
You like it? So yeah, I did actually look that one up, and because I was so curious about it, because my son is a soapy, and he hates cilantro because when he eats it, it tastes like he's chewing on a bar of soap. So I do not include cilantro in my cooking that I do for him.
Jane says she used to be a soapy, but isn't anymore.
I've heard that. I've heard that people can shift. I've heard that people can shift.
You know, that's actually one of the things on 23andMe and some of these other DNA companies. They're trying to pin it to a gene as to whether or not you're a soap taster or not.
Yeah. My ex-husband, my son's father, is definitely a soapy. There was no cilantro in this house at all, and there is now. But I just don't give it to my son. I think it tastes fresh. I think it makes everything just pop and explode. I absolutely love cilantro. It's one of my all-time favorites. Cilantro and garlic, I think, are my 2 favorite things. Okay. So I am actually going to eat the stems. Now I washed this this cilantro before I put it into the plastic container. I bought this stuff on Monday. Look how great it looks. This is Thursday. And then, but if I had just put the cilantro in the fridge or in the drawer, it would have wilted. So because I put it in my plastic thing, it's nice and fresh and looking good and smelling great. I wish you could smell that. Okay. So I'm going to give it a quick fold in half and give it a fast chop again with my sharp knife, stems and all. I do like the stems. Not everybody likes the stems, but in the stems you're going to find great fiber and great cilantro flavor. Okay, and then moving it around, a fast chop. Oh, I can smell it coming off the knife. That's fantastic. And then a quick sprinkle on. I'm going to sprinkle it all over my bowl. Now, when you look at the bowl, unfortunately, all you're going to see is the green. But I've got the carrots, the zucchini, the black beans, all the rice underneath, green peppers. This is a fiber bowl. And then with the protein found in the beans, this is going to keep me full for a long time. Now, what do you dress it with? You can use a traditional dressing that you buy in the store. This is a Trader Joe's Greek style feta dressing. It's not bad. Again, serving size, 2 thumbs up, 2 tablespoons, not too much. I like to make a homemade vinaigrette, and this is an old salad dressing jar. This is just olive oil, some balsamic vinegar, some garlic, salt, and pepper. That's it. I also make a Greek version with olive oil, lemon juice, garlic, salt, and pepper. Keeps forever in the fridge. The acid will prevent mold and bacteria from growing. The garlic will prevent mold and bacteria from growing, and also refrigeration helps slow down that process. So I've had this salad dressing for probably a couple of months now, and it still tastes great and very, very fresh.
Wendy, we have a question.
Yeah.
Do you rinse your veggies before you store them in the container?
I do. I try to. Yeah, I do. Depends on how much time I have. When I came home from the store Monday, I did have time to rinse them. It saves a step when dinner is upon me and I don't have to wash the vegetables. I already know that I've washed them.
What about your fruits? I've noticed that if I rinse my strawberries and then eat some of them and put some of them back in the refrigerator, they seem to rot quicker. So I typically don't wash my fruits before until I'm ready to eat them.
You know, I've been buying peaches lately because stone fruit is in season right now in the summer, and I don't wash the peaches until I'm ready to eat them because I find that happens with the peaches. But something with a firmer skin like cherries, I will wash because I find that they don't go wonky on me. But sometimes I'll take them outside the kitchen door and just kind of shake the water off, because if they're too wet, then sometimes mold can grow.
Yep.
So let's see, I've got my vinaigrette. The reason I like homemade vinaigrette is that I feel like I can use less of it because it is so potent, because I'm using fresh garlic. That's why I like this homemade vinaigrette as opposed to something I bought in the store. Now I will use stuff I bought in the store. I'm not quite that fussy, but when I make and eat a homemade vinaigrette, I'm always like, oh my God, I just used a little bit of it, and a little bit went a long way because it is so potent because of that garlic. So again, serving size for salad dressing is 2 tablespoons. I will measure this. This is a tablespoon. Let's see how much I get, how far it goes. Okay, that's 1. Spreading over. I have a feeling I'm going to go for 2. I have a feeling I'm going to need more to get it where I want it to be. So I'm going to go for the full 2 tablespoons. Once I start eating, and if I find it's not enough, I'm going to go ahead and add a little more, because really when you think about it, this is a very, very low calorie meal because there is so much fiber. And where you see high fiber foods, you will usually see lower calorie foods. I also always say, if you're not chewing, you may be gaining or you may be driving chronic disease, meaning that high fiber foods require a lot of chewing. So pay attention to your foods. If the foods you eat require very, very little chewing, they go down the throat into the stomach very, very quickly, those may be very low nutrient and low fiber foods. But if you find that you're chewing, these are typically a very, very high fiber diet, and you may be, if you're trying to lose weight, successful at losing weight, certainly maintaining your weight, not gaining, and then not driving cardiac disease and not driving diabetes.
Well, now I'm starving.
There are a couple of things that help me get this put together on a weeknight pretty fast. Knives, trying to keep them in good working order and sharp. And I always have a cutting board out. That is one of the most important things. Is in my kitchen, I always have a cutting board out. Now over here, right next to my cooktop, I have a cutting board sitting out. It's where I do the majority of my cutting. But I also have a cutting board right here that sits on my island, and I will do some cutting on this cutting board. Or I'll put my son to work. I'll say, I want you to chop this or chop that. Help me get this going. And so I've got 2 cutting boards going. This cutting board, when, I don't know if I have time. When I rented my first apartment back in the 90s on Beach Drive, Northeast, near downtown, this cutting board was there. It was in the kitchen, this big behemoth guy. And I thought, oh, cool, score. So I sanitized it because I didn't know who'd used it before, but I sanitized it. And then every time I got done with it, I would put it underneath the kitchen sink for storage. And one time I pulled it out to use it and I dropped it on my big toe. And I had a swollen black and blue big toe. The nail fell off. Gross, gross, gross. But what I did after that is I kept the cutting board out on the counter. And what happened is I found that I was cooking faster. I was cooking at home more often. I was eating more fruits, eating more vegetables because I was simply saving the step of pulling out the cutting board. So if there's one thing or a couple of things you want to do in your kitchen to help you be more prone to cook at home or faster or find more joy, is leave a cutting board out. It is a permanent fixture in your kitchen. And also, you don't have to have expensive knives. I think I spent $13 for this knife at I want it maybe Walmart or something. And but I do keep it sharp with my steel. So sharp knives and a cutting board sitting out, and you will be working fast. And hopefully you will find more joy in the kitchen as you're preparing your meals for yourself and your family.
All right. Does anybody have any questions? Jane threw another comment in there about rinsing your strawberries using a tablespoon of vinegar in the water so that they do keep and they won't taste like vinegar. So I'm going to try that next time. That's good point.
I can see where the vinegar would retard that bacterial growth and that mold growth. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I imagine it would work for raspberries, blackberries, all of those things that tend to rot quickly.
They hate acid. Bacterias and molds, they absolutely hate acids and salts. They hate them.
So I'm assuming that one of your cutting boards is devoted to meats and one of them to vegetables and fruits.
Actually, when I'm doing meats, I'm glad you brought that up. When I'm doing meats, I will I will lay down a plastic cutting board and I will do my meats, raw, especially raw meats and raw seafood on a plastic cutting board. I will try not to, sometimes juices run, not the end of the world. I will sanitize the cutting board, but yeah, I will throw down one of these if I'm doing raw meat, raw chicken, raw seafood, or beef or something like that. I also found these at Bed Bath & Beyond. These are
I have a bunch of those. Yep.
Yeah, these are nice and big. They shimmy shammy around too much, which makes for an unsteady and unsafe cooking surface. But if you have granite, I found that you can get them wet on one side.
Wet the bottom. Yep,
and they will stick.
Well, not only that, but when you go to pour things into a pot, you can just use that as a spout. Yeah.
Yep. I've done that too. Like I said, I'm sort of a fan because they're not they kind of shimmy shammy around too much for my taste. But yeah, when I'm cutting meat, I will pull one of my plastic cutting boards out and lay it on the wood and do that.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Well, I tell you, you've inspired me because like you, I enjoy the bowl concept, but I don't want to spend a ton of money on it. So I think we'll attempt some interesting bowls in the weeks to come.
I would argue this is maybe $3 or $4 worth of ingredients.
That's a lot of food.
And it's actually very heavy. I don't actually know if I can eat all of it, but $16 for these bowls downtown. That's a lot of money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tori Tipton says, thank you so much. All right. Well, everybody enjoy your 2 thumbfuls of peanut butter today.
Yeah. Wah, wah, like sad trombone. Wah, wah. I know. Isn't that the worst?
Oh, well.
Well. I know.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Everybody's
throwing in a thank you into the chat, so you'll see that.
Oh, good. Thank you. I appreciate you having me. I always love doing these for Pinellas County. You guys are always the best crowd. I'll just go out and say you guys are always the best crowd.
Yeah.
I've done enough of these. You guys are the best.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Everybody enjoy. Bye.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.